He wears his emotions. Technically, he does things that we just don't see other footballers do.
True.
And wow, how important is he for this team in the home stretch?
He wears his emotions like a Jack Grealish wig, some would say.
From the Men in Blazers studios in the crap part of Bedford, from the crap part of West Hollywood, California, it's the Men in Blazers video podcast presented by the GFOPs at Camarena, the most awarded tequila.
Oh, we're back like the Detroit Lions. Oh, wow. Just wow. Can I just say, what an incredible city. We were there this summer, spending time in and around. Fantastic football city, fantastic soccer city. Huge love to everyone. They're winning their first bloody playoff game in 33 years. Honestly, hope for every fan of every team in sports, not you Everton supporters. How are you doing, Dave?
Well, yes, shout out to my old friend Carl. So excited for the Detroit Lions. I'm doing okay. Rog, there's a lot of sport going on all around the world. A little less, only half the amount of sport in the Premier League. But there was a Classico, there's the Australian Open, there's all the NFL conference playoffs. There's another one today with the snow removed, one assumes, up in Buffalo. It's exciting times.
God, it's an odd weekend from a footballing perspective. Premier League, only 5 games for a winter break. I'd just say on one level, how dare these footballers take a break? Because we don't take a week off from sitting on our couches, eating all those chips, drinking all those beers, shouting at the television as if that venting scream can actually impact events folding 3,000 miles away. Do we, Dave? We keep bringing it.
Yeah, no. A Men in Blazers winter break, though, would be highly welcomed. I like that. Go somewhere sunny. You and I, we could go to Tulum. Or where would we go? Miami? Yeah, I don't know.
What's
probably
a hot city that is a Rog city? I'm trying to think of what
Athens,
that is. It's probably
maybe.
Marrakesh. I'm not a big Athens fan. I don't like the pollution. I'm not big on the pollution. Probably I do like a bit of Marrakesh. I do like wandering around. I'm more of a Fez kind of guy. I think Fez is more the Rog city.
I think Buenos Aires as well, Rog. I think.
Oh my God,
city.
I long to go back there. It's got all the food groups, Malbec and steak. I'm in there. A little bit of Sicily would be incredible. I love going to Palermo. I like a bit of Catania. I like
Auckland.
Any town that has an elephant as a... God, don't get me started on the big A. God, they're in a heartbeat. I think parts of Japan also.
Yeah, they're not that warm, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
What else hot is a Rog city? You know what? El Paso, probably. That is the city more than any other that I long to get to this year.
Really?
What about you, David?
Lusaka. Yeah. Lusaka, in Zambia, where my father lived for a while. I've always wanted to go there.
Make it happen. This is the year of not just talking about things, doing things. El Paso, I just want to go to see if I want to scope out sites for where I'm going to build an enormous GoFundMe Ricardo Pepi statue, just an enormous one on the city limits that looms over the whole town. But David, my point is, if we can endure as fans, why can't the players? Modern football. I mean, this notion of a winter break. It's all a bit clever. It's actually, to be candid, in all seriousness, winter break is a great thing. Really a token gesture where we acknowledge that the Premier League players are mildly human. We have never lived in a more insanely stretched modern football calendar, have we, David?
No, it goes all year. Pre-season has got longer and longer. There are more competitions for more teams to be involved in. I mean, remember also when we were younger, Rog, English teams were so crap, we didn't play in a lot of postseason competition. There's now the international fixture list that's become way more
the
congested.
Nations League.
Yes, so much stuff.
The Nations League. The notion of postseason friendlies, which were hilarious when they were invented, and now seem kind of like important that the players warm down whilst seeing to important commercial territories, all blends into the season, kind of which blends into international competition.
The Super Cup. But Man City have been all around the world like already this season. It's insane, and they've been to Newcastle.
Somewhere at FIFA, they're like, "Damn, why did we call it the best? You can't get better than the best, and you can't get better than what's better than Super." So we get the Super Duper Cup. You can imagine them straight faced, just broaching that notion. But like any break we can give these is a good thing for anyone who likes or kind of cares about the quality of the football. This is a truly grueling schedule. Next season, with the wonderful but slightly ill-conceived FIFA Club World Cup happening on these shores, so I won't hear a bad word said about it. Next season, Davo, top players could play up to, this blew my mind when I saw this, 86 games in total. It's a madness, right?
When is Jack Grealish going to be able to get his free tables in nightclubs? Like, how has nobody thought about the bottle service industry in putting together these schedules? It's impossible.
Yeah, we're getting to a moment where Phil Foden's eyebrows are going to grow back in their totality. I don't even have time to get the shaves cut in. But it is a madness, just the physical and mental toll that it can take on the players. I hope they are all breaking wonderfully. And anyway, even with this diminished schedule, Davo, boy, this weekend delivered and then some. So let's dive in, baby.
Yeah, but before we get to the football, a quick mention of everything coming up at Men in Blazers World Headquarters this week. Tomorrow, one for the ages, Rog, as we unleash the latest episode of This Week in Wrexham, powered by Stoke Cold Brew Coffee, featuring the one and only Ollie Palmer. Rog, I understand this was quite the interview.
Yeah, anyone who's watched Welcome to Wrexham will know Ollie well, and shockingly, he kept his shirt on for the whole interview, which was, I think, a PB for him. But he's also an immense human being, a storyteller who proves one of the life truths we learned from producing this Wrexham series, that players from the Football League have really had to grind their way to where they are, really willing and eager to open up, to just be themselves in interviews. And let's say he does not hold back here. Wrexham fans, football fans, and human beings alike, you will not want to miss this. It is a gorgeous week here at MIB Media Network. Massive news coming later in the week, which I cannot wait to share with the world, Davo. But let's dig in to all that happened in the weekend just past.
Okay, can you kick us off with a toast, Rogelio?
Oh, mate, I thought you'd never ask. And I want to raise my first Bud Light of the day to the memory of Martin Luther King Jr. as we broadcast on the day that marks his birth, that marks his life, that marks his legacy. One of the greatest Americans, a gent whose memory and teachings, honestly, they feel achingly this, just as important the further we move from his passing, needed now as much as ever. This morning, I got up and I read his sermon delivered in March 1956 at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. It's a sermon entitled When Peace Becomes Obnoxious, speech delivered around the time of the Montgomery bus boycott. And this moment really jumped out at me, and I've been thinking about it ever since. True peace is not merely the absence of tension, it's the presence of justice. To more peace, to more justice. There you go.
Beautiful, Roger. Okay, this was a beautiful football game to start off this conversation with. Newcastle 2, Man City 3, one of the games of the season, a scintillating back and forth between two Premier League heavyweights. The visitors drew first blood on 26 minutes when the Premier League's answer to Prince, Bernardo Silva, loves a bit of Portuguese purple rain, Rog. He flicked home a cross with the supplest of between-the-leg touches to make it 1-0. But Jason Tyndall's tune hit back thanks to goals in 2 minutes from Alexander Isak and your mate, Anthony Gordon. But as the game wound down and Pep made changes, City inevitably, inexorably hit back. First via KDB, who passed it into the net on his first Premier League appearance since opening day. And then, that Belgian maestro hit fellow substitute Oscar Bob with a pinpoint ball. Bob, happy-footed, past Martin Dubravka in the Newcastle net to win it for City. Cue a Pep one-man show for the ages at the final whistle. City win their third straight and are just 2 points behind Liverpool.
God, just reliving your words, Dave. I go on Morning Joe every Monday morning to relive the highlights of the Premier League weekend. It's very compressed. Normally touch upon 3 games in a tiny blaze of Roger nonsense. Today, I just talked about this one game. I wanted to show America these 5 goals, each of them beautiful in their own way, each of them almost learning from the one that came before it so they could better it constantly. And it all took place in Newcastle. Who knew when we tuned in? Newcastle, the most obvious place in the world for a Gulf regional proxy battle. Saudi Arabian-owned Newcastle, Abu Dhabi-owned Manchester City. Make that suddenly 10th place Newcastle, welcoming 4-peat-seeking Manchester City. We had no idea when this game kicked off what we were all about to witness collectively. What spectacle. A Premier League classic Newcastle. This team had taken on-field selfies after downing local patsy Sunderland in the FA Cup. A win which was really respite to their true form, downing the Black Cats, suddenly had to welcome the true big cats. I mean, like Bengali tiger level predators, a terrifying prospect. The Toon had lost 7 of their last 8 in the league. Manchester City arrived in ominously invincible form and beaten in their last 8 games, all comps. 0 players lost to AFCON or the Asian Cup, a game in hand on their rivals, and peerless Ginge Fringe KDB back in the squad. Davo, first things first, the big question. Is his new haircut? It is a Jack Grealish wig, right? It is a wig, right?
Yeah, well, but look, let's face it. KDB is never going to look like Jack Grealish. You would, I would, everyone would. He's still KDB under there.
Yes.
But it is a distinctly different attempt to wear his hair. It's a very, very different look. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it is a Jack Grealish wig. If you actually look at the end, and I don't want to fast forward, but at the end, and we'll talk about it, Pep Guardiola walking on just deliriously around the field. He does actually, it's a very bizarre moment that not enough people have talked about, does actually put his hands into KDB's hair and gives him a little tug. And I wonder, I don't like to sow conspiracy theories on this show. I save it for my guest appearances on Alex Jones. But I wonder whether he too was wondering, that's not real, is it? Let me just test in this moment of victory. Wig, not wig. And I think we still do not know. But let's go back to the beginning. Fair game. Lost to history is that Newcastle opened in blistering form, all guns blazing, charging through, scored a goal. It was VAR'd offside. But Ederson whacked and dazed during the delayed call as Kyle Walker kind of tackled his own goalkeeper in the temporary play-on moment until a late flag. And Ederson seemed dazed, ultimately went off. On came Stefan Ortega. A switch, honestly, for City was as devastating as losing your queen in chess, the way Ederson creates from deep. And the camera cut to Pep in the frenzy, talking to his second-string goalkeeper, Ortega, about to come on. I've got to say, Davo, only Pep would, in the seconds before his goalkeeper comes on, just bark complex tactical instructions. Every other coach would be like, just save the crap, all right, mate? Pep was like, play it out at the back, down the left flank to the inverted centre-back at every opportunity. I mean, God, that was the moment.
I imagine that he's telling him where he needs to stand when Man City have a corner. Which quadrant of the box I need you to stand in to distract attention from the defenders. The level of detail is probably mind-numbing.
You think that, but maybe actually, I'm going to rewind it after we pod. Maybe lip readers, tell me, was he saying that? Or was he saying to him, KDB's hair? It's a wig, right?
Could have been. You've interviewed the man. You know him better than me.
But despite the blow, City moved on into their rhythm, started to paper cut their opponent in forcing them into that Toon defensive crouch, just slashing through them in tiny triangle passes, which are so exhausting to face up to physically and mentally. Foden, Alvarez, Doku started to whir around, bruise all comers. That first goal when it came, honestly, my nipples still tingling. 26th minute, Newcastle furious that Diaz pushed Anthony Gordon out of bounds like some kind of NFL special teams player in the move. But City played on, triangling their opponents to sleep. And then Doku suddenly lashed a long ball outright. Walker drove low and true. Bernardo Silva, his brain, in that moment, like one of those Snapchat filters where they over your head, you have 1,000 options and then it stays on one. It was like stab home, go opposite corner. Nah, I am going to back heel it with my weaker right foot for maximum peak skill / goalkeeper brain twisting humiliation level settings. And it was magnificent, David.
It was so good because Kyle Walker, who has had, if you read any of the British newspapers, has had a pretty difficult week off the field. He suddenly found himself in space and put a ball that was not really great. It was behind Silva, but it didn't really seem to matter. Silva is like, oh, it's behind me. It's way behind me. So I just go and do this move, the move that, you can count on less than one hand footballers in the Premier League, perhaps across European football, who could actually convert. And just the mind, the cheek, the audacity to go and do that and just put it in the corner. Wonderful, wonderful finish.
It was a touch of a man who can make love in at least 7 or 8 different languages, right, David? The touch of a tender lover.
Yeah, it was probably accompanied by an ole as he did it as well. It was fantastic.
Zabakerman, GFOP tweeted at us what felt like a life truth in that moment. They tweeted, "Are we at the point of the season where Manchester City never lose again?" And that's what it felt like as Bernardo Silva proceeded to smash a stinging drive off the hands of Dubravka, who will probably still be feeling the bruises till Wednesday. Newcastle were utterly on the ropes. I think only once they'd come from behind after conceding this season. It felt like a movie we'd seen before. This felt like, honestly, City 4, Newcastle down to 10 men nil at the final whistle. I mean, City were unbeaten in the last 9 games. Against Newcastle, they'd rattled up a combined score of like 28-8. But then it happened. City so confident, so hungry in possession. But what do? They leave so much space in behind. And Newcastle are, if nothing else, perfectly designed to take advantage of that, because City, even dominant, have that tiny vulnerable nerve centre. They remain open to an electrifyingly quick counter, and so it came. Ball alchemically fired, first time by Guimaraes. Spin, accuracy, vision into space rather than to man. But what a man. A beautiful spiral like playoff CJ Stroud, launching it instinctively downfield to a charging, gorgeous Isak. What a footballer. Walker tried to hold him off, but Isak sees the moment, just slashing I don't know how you describe the shot, David. It was like a conjured, kind of improvised straight right into the corner. Sensational football. It was like seeing Swedish Luke Skywalker fire a proton torpedo straight into that air duct. The only vulnerability on a Death Star.
Yeah, it's one of those goals where you have to shape your foot while in your imagination you shape the ball going from outside the goal into the goal. So it requires both amazingly a technical arc and a creative visualized arc, and just perfect execution on both of those. You've got to see the right picture. You've got to conjure it in your mind. You've got to conjure it with your foot. So I think magic is a very, very good analogy to use there. Absolutely sumptuous. And, you said earlier that every goal seemed to learn from the last goal. This almost was the response. Is like we had one technically beautiful goal from Bernardo at one end, and then this was sort of from the opposite quadrant of goals, of imaginative, technically brilliant goals. The long ball from Guimaraes to Isak, and the finish from way outside, contrasting against that just intricate little moment of skill inside the box from Bernardo.
God bless Isak. I adore him. He's such an intelligent footballer. He's got the demeanour of a man who's angry at himself. He still does the wordle, but gets angry at himself when he doesn't finish it second guess every single bloody time. And Davo, we do not say this enough. 2 minutes and 18 seconds later, it would get worse for Manchester City. 3 words for you. Anthony bloody Gordon received the ball out wide, fed by Burn. Kyle Walker strolled over with all the confidence he displays. Always at the head of the table, always alive for the party. This is my flank, he exuded. But that Ginger Benedict Arnold, he's got no fear. He gave a really fascinating set of interviews this week about how competitive he suddenly is feeling, how he boxes, made himself sound like little Ginger Rocky punching slabs of meat away in the freezer up there in Newcastle. And he just surfed off all that confidence, cut inside, and just... I don't know how else to describe it. He Elvis Costello'd the ball into the corner past Ortega. His aim is true. And I'm contractually obliged to say Zach Ertz would have saved that. But David, magnificent.
Yeah, Graham Lasso quite critical of Kyle Walker not quite doing enough defensively to stop him getting it. I don't even think Anthony Gordon hit it as cleanly as he wanted to, but it was precise. And great finish, and it was an echo of the Isak goal, but wow, 2-1 to the tune.
You know me, Davo. You know me as a proudly horrible man. I am a hater. I do carry grudges for life. Yeah. I've always said if grudge holding was an Olympic sport, probably be the thing. I would be a 3rd generation gold medalist. I think my family very, very. It's in our DNA. But man.
What is the Yiddish word? It's a broigus? Is that
a broigus. A broigus. I mean, it's like a family or very close, an argument. My grandpa was one of 12 brothers. He had broiguses with every single one of them. They all stopped speaking to each other. And I've told this story many times. As he got older, he couldn't, still never spoke, couldn't remember the reason. And after I went to a funeral with him once for one of his older brothers, he started weeping on the way home. I said, "Are you sad you never spoke to him?" He goes, "No, I'm angry. I can't remember why I hated him." And he did. He came out with that great face. He said, "Hate in life, but always write down the reason." I'm only repeating this story because that's life advice for young people. Write down the reason because you will forget it. But man, I'm going to say, even in this moment, watching, I took my hat off to Anthony Gordon.
Wow.
Just watching him wheel away to scream into the Newcastle night. Even I was like, holy crap. What we just seen was utterly magnificent, and we've seen it enough from Anthony Gordon now for me to say, you know what, it wasn't just a one moment like screwing a deflector against Manchester United to get a win for Everton Football Club. He must have learnt these skills from Dwight McNeil, and he owns them now, and good luck and God bless to him.
Yeah, it was amazing. And cut to the sideline cam and an incredible moment. Eddie Howe celebrates quite enthusiastically on the sideline, and Pep with a look. I've not seen that reaction from Pep on the sideline. A look over towards Eddie Howe, followed by just sadness. I mean, I felt so much sadness at that moment watching it. It was awful to see.
I mean, that movie Zidane, 21st Century Football or whatever it was, 20th Century Football, where they just follow Zidane for a whole game around with like 87 cameras. Just cutting the little glimpses we saw of Pep in this game was just every piece of human emotion lived out. I mean, he was howling in agony, in surprise, in shock, in dismay, in fear. There was real fear. This Newcastle moment, the seas of everything, where we were in the season, the return from the champions, from the Cup, World Cup final, club final. We're champions. This was not meant to be happening to us in this way. We're meant to reel off win after win after win here. Pep had said before the game, Newcastle the hardest place to go. Suddenly he was right than he even thought. City had thought they were attending their own coronation one moment. Suddenly they were very much nose-bloodied, wheezing on their knees in the midst of a knife fight. 31% possession Newcastle had in that first half. I think 2 shots on goal, but it was 2-1. Could have been more. City suddenly bewildered, also aware of that weak spot. And the more they chased the game, the more open they were. Isak in behind again, couldn't make the most of it. Ortega smothered. The game became, first of all, can we just say, first half, I was reminded, and I watch a lot of football, reminded again how magnificent football is. Just the majesty, the uncertainty, the wonder. It's a gift, Davo, game like this.
Yeah, and this was an advertisement for the Premier League. This was a superb game of Premier League football. And yeah, we'd sort of say they've said at the top, the heavyweights, but Newcastle haven't been heavyweights early in the season. They started well, they faded terribly, which is why they're in 10th place coming into this game. But just the quality of football, the quality of play, the quality of tactical adjustment was superb.
And the edge, the feistiness, this game had a lot of spite in it. Rodri could have gotten a couple of yellows first half. Guimaraes, of course, it goes without saying, could have picked up at least 3 in the first half. No man gets more free hits than that dude. He doesn't have to fear the red. City, second half, so dominant, 75% possession, 27 shots total, 8 saves by Dubravka, who was defiant, but you knew as the game ticked on, it would all be about the benches, the substitutes, the resources. Newcastle's lean, just Lewis Hall entered the fray. Manchester City stocked a murderer's row of talent. Pep looked on, as you said, in like furious shock. His team had won more games, scored more goals, kept more clean sheets against Newcastle than any other opponent. Yes, I was also shocked to hear that statistic, fellow Everton fans. Less shocked, though, 68th minute, when Pep unleashed, break glass in emergency, bring on Kevin De Bruyne button. He came on, and within 4 minutes, 35 seconds, he just took the game into his own hands, strolled through the Newcastle girt like a Flemish Thomas Crown, then just chose the moment. I think it was Shaw looming in front of him, bent time and space to his will, casually rolled the ball into the bottom left. A calm finish. It wasn't, a lot of people would shoot for power. He side-footed. He was going for utter surgical precision. Honestly, the kind of goal that makes you wonder, why aren't there more goals like this? But it also makes you answer that because there's only one KDB.
Yeah, you could go through the annals of top-class football
Or
and
the
try to
anals.
find a similar goal of a any number 10, any attacking midfielder moving left, hitting the ball with the right instep as though to pass, and beating the goalkeeper into the left-hand corner with the ball swinging away. I mean, it just is. It's so hard. It's why you just don't see it done.
Yes, I've seen the only player I've seen it done is Michael Keane into his own net. But it takes such a cool head in the midst of a bar fight move
into your opponent's net.
Yes,
very
just
difficult
KDB.
to do.
I mean, who thinks that calmly, David? I mean, two people, KDB and Jack Reacher. And I think KDB may be a fictional character. I know Jack Reacher's real. It's a documentary. I don't know who else. Just his read of space and time, the mindset of the goalkeeper and the defender. He was in their heads too. Just such a complex set of calculations to produce what looked like the simplest of finishes. But you could tell how complex it was by the way that Pep just reacted in a frenzy on the sideline. Yeah, kind of as if he was making it clear it was my decision to unleash KDB. That was the footballing genius move. But it was remarkable to watch this superlative, beautiful human being. First Premier League appearance for De Bruyne in 165 agonising days from the first day of the season, hamstrung. All it took was 4 minutes 35 for him to make his impact. And Davo, the pressure on Newcastle, suddenly now white hot heat, just besieged in their own area. The players in narrow banks just holding on for dear life, but they repelled, or they seemed to, until the 91st minute. KDB suddenly just looked up. And I don't know, again, how many people in football could make this pass, Davo. It was like a Mahomes of a pass. I've looked at it 1,000 times. Honestly, who else could make this pass? Like KDB in the Premier League, Guy Maresh, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Bruno on a good day, Dwight McDeal-Ovs. Is that it?
Yeah, I think it's the sort of pass that if someone attempted it and got close to making it, you would stand up and applaud because of the vision, the technical ability to get close to making that pass, to actually hit your man, to know that Oscar Bob is that good that he's going to be able to handle that pass and play with it. The whole thing was just extraordinary. He has this right foot that to put that much angle on a right-footed curling pass from the center of the pitch into the inside channel. It's not the outside channel. He puts so much curve on it. He almost starts it in the opposite direction for it to come back. It's like watching, a left-handed tennis server like hit that serve out wide that no right-hander can. But KDB does it with his right foot, with his right inside step. It was just a thing of beauty. I literally gasped as I was watching this game live.
I mean, Jurgen Klopp had said that De Bruyne coming back made the world shake, which sounded hyperbolic when it came out of his mouth. But in that second, it was. Social media connects us. You feel a deep kinship to everyone around the globe watching this game. And that's what it felt like in this moment, that the world was shaking. It's honestly like watching a bowler make a 7-10 split just look effortless. The ball fell straight to that other substitute, young Oscar Bob, in stride. There's an element of athletic brilliance to the combination between the two. There's an element, yes, of geometrical wonder and calculation, but the telepathy between these two players. Oscar Bob's so young, 20. The fact that KDB has that relationship already with him is, where's that forged in training? It's remarkable for both men. Vulcan mind meld levels, and Bob proceeded to unleash. We've got to credit him. It was like watching Jackie Chan in A Legend of Drunken Master final fight scene. Those moves on their own, never mind the Kevin De Bruyne chip wedge. It was stunning. Bob, the control, the freeing himself from Trippier, the dummying Dubravka out of his shorts, the finish, each move, just dazzling in its own right. Just 20 years old, Davo, and St. James's Park was silenced.
Yeah, if I'd asked you to describe in that moment, before it happened, describe a goal that would be better than the other four that we've seen in this game so far, you would have struggled to come up with, you would have said something, it would have been it would have been the substitute goalkeeper hitting one in on the fly from a goal kick. It would have been something ludicrous. But this goal, the second I saw it, I recognized that this was a better goal than the first four, something that I'm not sure I've ever seen before. To see this happen in injury time, situationally where it is, with the title race where it is, a number 52 in the history of the game. Have we seen a number 52 score a winning goal in injury time for a title contender? I mean, wow.
And De Bruyne, so gassed. I mean, he's nowhere near match fit. He said afterwards, it was crazy. I miss this, but it was more willpower than anything else. I'm not able to do that for 90 minutes. I can do like 25. I feel it in my lungs with the cold. Only him, when that gas could do that in that moment. 2 passes into the game, 1 into the corner of the net. 1 even finer to young Oscar Bob. David, here's a quick question. We've always loved KDB on this show. Why? Because we live and breathe. We are human. We can just respect a Flemish master when we see one. But did it take us having to miss KDB, have him out for these agonizing 5 months to make our heart grow fonder and truly appreciate his transcendent skills?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the other thing we love about KDB is he's a man that, wears his emotion on his face, and now I think he has the haircut to match. I think a bit of flop is what he needed to sort of, to cover the full range of emotions we see from KDB. A happy KDB is a thing of beauty, a confident KDB, a thing of a strength.
Healthy KDB, please.
And then a sad KDB we've seen, especially in his Belgian national team jersey,
and the Champions League.
Yeah, it's painful to look at. But yeah, he wears his emotions. Technically, he does things that we just don't see other footballers do.
True.
And wow, how important is he?
He wears his emotions like a Jack Grealish wig. Some would say. The result: Saudi Arabia 2, Abu Dhabi 3. It was predictable. It was inevitable, but still incredible to watch. Newcastle, savage pain. I think Eddie Howe was shattered post-match, lost consecutive league home games under his managership for the first time. The last game was being spanked by Nottingham Forest in that Chris Wood comes alive hat-trick Kiwi won the game. But this probably hurts even more. And the team are now stuck adrift in 10th with a trip to invincible at home Aston Villa next in the league. On one level, Newcastle must have created intense memories for their home fans on this day. Memories, though, they were ultimately singed by that final whistle. By the reality, dark run of 6 defeats in 7 league games continues. I think in the media, there's a lot of, how on the rocks. Speaking to people in Newcastle, a lot less rocks, a lot less how on them. A deep appreciation and a love for the totality of the work. Where are you on the Newcastle project?
I think Eddie Howe's done a phenomenal job. And you can just see how good this football team is, and legit stars in like Guimaraes and Isaac and Anthony Gordon, as you said earlier, playing football that I didn't believe he was capable of, week in, week out. It's just tough. The Premier League is just so unremittingly difficult and challenging. I still think they're in an upward journey, and they certainly have the money behind them to go and do it. And my guess is this is the right man for the job.
God, there is, FFP now. It's being taken mildly seriously. As we pod, there are, Everton, Nottingham Forest repercussions crackling over the newswire. And it seems like FFP has them hamstrung in this window. They have to sell to buy. But for City, this game, it seems symbolically more than 3 points. Watching Pep Guardiola, his reaction at full time was quite something. This is a man, remember, who has won everything in football so many times, seen everything in football, lived everything. But at the final whistle, he walks around utterly buzzed off his head, hugging everyone. Yes, he did a second's coaching with Gvardiol before he slapped him in the face, gave him a hug. But everyone, even Calvin Bloody Phillips, for a second, I think, until he realised who it was, everyone got a hug. But when he saw KDB, even Pep, the look on his face, just like astonishment. KDB so humble in the interaction. He was almost embarrassed, just kind of pushed him back. Then they hugged, and you saw two legends: the managerial ball king, the Flemish dude who looks a bit like Prince Harry, but Prince Harry if he was actually good at something. And it was just beautiful that Pep then split away tore off, ran towards the fans, punched the air in front of them like a berserker. And this was a man who knows. This is a man who knows when he says on the plane back from winning the club championship, World Club Championship, that his team have, quote, winning titles in their bones. That in that moment, Davo, post Newcastle victory in this league, it all felt so deeply, profoundly, and frankly, terrifyingly true.
You know, it's one thing to acknowledge that Man City are the best team in football, but when you actually see them out there expressing themselves as the best team in football, it is something to behold.
Haaland still out until February. Most teams would fold when that happens, to be candid. City merely pluck their hand into Mount Olympus, pull out another demigod. King Kevin's back. There is nothing to fear. Last word to great GFOP, Mark Dolce, who sent an email to meninblazers@gmail.com. And he wrote, I'm going to be very disappointed if no English tabloid uses the following headline: Bob's your uncle, De Bruyne's your daddy.
We're offering it out there for free. Okay. Across the other side of Manchester United 2, Tottenham 2, a back and forth affair at the Theatre of Screams. It was that 20-year-old Danish prom king, Rasmus Højlund, who started the scoring in just the third minute, lashing one home. But sometimes you think Big Ange lets the opponent throw the first punch just for fun. Just for the feels. His mob hit back through Richie. 6 goals in 6 games for your former Flame, Rog. United went ahead again thanks to Marcus Rashford's first Old Trafford goal of the season, but just 50 seconds into the second half, Rodrigo Betancourt levelled it up for Spurs, and that's how this one ends. Spurs in 5th place, United in 7th.
God, what a coda to the weekend. Timo Werner's redemptive second coming, an instant start up north. Former Chelsea striker became an offside meme lord. He's back, arriving at Spurs on loan from RB Leipzig. Chance to buy 2 for a Sonnyless Spurs. Also had Mickey van der Veen back from injury at Old Trafford to face Ten Hag and United, whom last Monday night's FA Cup win at League One Wigan was a toupee of respite. A lot of wig talk in this podcast. Distraction really from the degrading truth that they'd lost 9 of their 20 league games this season. And they had new controlling investor, local lad turned chemical billionaire, just your average local lad turned chem billionaire, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, clad in his own brand Belstaff Davo, always be selling, sending multiple signals really. Number 1, there'll be change. And number 2, those Glazers did not turn up, bar rare occasions. I am going to be hands-on as his analysts are picking over the bones of the United spreadsheets to find out where he can cut, mostly jobs. He sat alongside a fellow Sir Alex Ferguson. Davo, everybody wants to get in with the new guy, right? Even him.
Yeah. When they said like 2 Knights of the Realm, I think was the... was it John Champion on this game? I think it was.
That sounds very Champion-esque.
2 Knights of the Realm, and I thought, well, one earned it, and the other one maybe bought it. But yeah, doing the right things, creating the right images, Rog, creating the right pictures, going there to the game in his Belstaff, sitting next to Sir Alex, asking questions, seemed to be giving quite a lot of opinions too to Sir Alex, which was an interesting. The Scotsman gave a slightly dubious smile a couple of times that I saw on the cutaways. But yeah,
can you buy a knighthood?
Yeah,
you can. Maybe we should sell them in the new Men in Blazers store. I'm going to follow you on that one. You know, this is a United who had on. This is amazing. Twice scored at home in the opening half. How would they react to their new big boss, different to the old boss being there? We only had to wait 3 bloody minutes to find out. A goal cut for the classic United of your attack. Starting with Onana, who quickly fed Bruno some pass, first time to unleash who? Marcus Rashford. He cut inside. I've got to say, the Marcus Rashford of last season would have finished, but his shot blocked. And who followed up? It was Højlund, who took possession of the ball, and then almost with a vented frustration and just growing anger and a mix of relief, slapped the ball just top shelf. Vicario had no chance, and poor Højlund, who'd failed and been memed and was now suddenly scoring deliciously again, ran off, still astonished, pointing still at his badge, telling the fans, here, I belong here. I just, by the way, hope he makes this his standard celly forever, David. I hope that Højlund scores hundreds of goals for Manchester United, and is still doing his self-justifying selly of just like naive, giddy astonishment each time.
I don't know. See, to me, he has the celebration of a far more prolific scorer. It's not the celebration of a guy who's just making his way in the Premier League. He celebrates as though he's, Wayne Rooney of yore or Ronaldo of yore. It's like signature celebration. I find it bizarre.
But he's still pointing. He's like, me, here, I'm not leaving. You're not getting rid of me. I belong here. Here, you, I'm scoring for you. Honestly, I admire him. I admire him so much, this young gent in a tough context, fighting, not giving up. Many would have buckled, most would have buckled, fighting to demonstrate the inner confidence that he has felt, resummoning it, beginning to feel again, able to the world, lethal, dangerous. I loved it, and I hope we see more. Ange Postecoglou, gobsmacked for a moment. The goal almost ripped straight from the big Ange playbook, as if Ten Hag had been watching Sonny score for fun on video during the break. This Spurs, even with Sonny gone, Sarr, Basuma, they're on AFCON, Sonny on Asian Cup duty, though. They are relentless in their own way. They do not stop. They won't be dented or denied. So many players out with injury, on both sides. But for the players on international duty for Spurs, that is a heartbeat of other teams that would have been ripped out, but they found a way to get off the canvas and just spit out the blood in a mouth, punch right back from a corner, taken by the truly immensely definitive Pedro Porro, floated it into a scrum of bodies. I don't think United will defensively be proud of this moment. But it was an in-swing, a lot of gripple grapple, and who got to the ball? Of course, it was Richarlison, that master of mischief in the middle of trouble, got his bonce on it, flicked it deftly, archly away into the corner, and then unleashed, I think all of the sellies. There was the knee slide, the stop. I'm going to do my pigeon dance and a new flourish, the bow, and almost a Shakespearean hand flourish for a theatre in the round. Do you like that?
Yes, I love that. Good morrow, sir. It's what it is. A good morrow, sir.
Lady, I see a puddle in front of you, whence I shall take off my cape and thou shalt step up on it. It was, yes. I just love it. More. I think, doesn't football need more Shakespearean flourish?
Yes, good morrow.
Yes.
There needs to also be more tipping of one's forelock. You need to tip your forelock
in mischievous fashion,
and then good morrow.
Yes, and more mandolin bands playing up while the game's going on, with those old medieval instruments, whatever, Shakespearean or just proto-modern, mobile forward. 6 goals in 6, confidence surging. I've got to say, can I say about Richarlison? I don't know if you've ever felt like this about a player, Davo, that's left your club, but he did so with such love. He left Everton rather than being dead to me, which is truly my MO. I still love, I still root, I still feel such joy for that human being. Have you felt like that for a player that's left you before?
Yeah, I was just, Lamps, when he went off to City and came to, NYCFC, definitely him. But I think that was a different situation. I mean, he'd done years and years and years. Somebody who hadn't been there very long who left, probably not Timo Werner, not Kai Havertz in recent years. I don't know. I have to think about that and get back to you.
God, I just adore him. And it suddenly felt like the game had dissolved into a mutual proctology exam. Spurs charging frenzied, United, really in midfield, overwhelmed. It's got to be said. Spurs always seem to have an extra body in there. United suddenly dislocated. Every Spurs player trying to Ange it up as both defender and attacker. Even Timo Werner, God bless, cut inside, let loose like some kind of German Mudrick. The ball span off nearer the corner flag than the goal for just a humiliating signature whiff. Cue new kit, same old Timo. I've got to say, in fairness to Timo Werner, he's had just 17 minutes of football in the last 2.5 months. Pretty rusty. Being a wildly misfiring football player, give him a little bit of time. I think we've got to say, before we judge this return to the intensity of the Premier League, I've got to say, humanly, don't know where you are on his return, Davo. I think he's so bloody brave to come back and almost stick his fingers back in the electrical socket that once shocked him, and I wish him well.
Yeah, and to come back to a London rival of Chelsea as well. But I thought he was, look, you can say this about him. He found space, he ran with a lot of intent and found a way to contribute to a goal.
And for all of that Spurs feistiness, it's got to say Tottenham are and will be under Ange, open behind, open, rusty, vulnerable. Dogie crashed a header off his own post, and Højlund and Rashford both spiking in confidence, interchanging passes delightfully before Rashford sived it home. Dagger of an arc. I love watching Rashford score again. I think it's his first goal at Old Trafford since May, which honestly is astonishing, but it also felt like the sun rising again after months of polar darkness. And perhaps just as significantly, this is the first time ever that United scorers Marcus Rashford and Rasmus Højlund both found the net in the same game together. So, Davo, the big question, what are we calling the unstoppable new Premier League duo? Is it Rashland or is it Hoylford?
Hoylford is more entertaining. That's more Blazers like. I have a feeling it's going to be called Rashland by you know perhaps more perhaps by larger commentators, perhaps by the larger mass of the British media. But I think for us, Hoylford really works.
I'm going to offer up Hoyle beans to use
Okay.
I think it's gorgeous. I can just imagine the cuddly toy spin-offs that could be got out of that duo.
Yeah.
May they long be a thing. I mean, looking on, Wayne Rooney in admiration. So nice to see DC United's former manager getting the royal treatment from United. He was watching his old mob lead at home at halftime for just the first time this season. Would it last? ... And we had to wait exactly 50 seconds to find out. Romero unleashed a dazzler of a pass to unfurl Oliver Skip, who had a fantastic game. United couldn't have been more open if he'd been wielding a gutting knife. Werner, bless him, slipped the ball to Bentancur for we got to respect it. A Timo assist, I think that's a thing. May there be so many bloody more than Bentancur tied up Johnny Evans, smashed the ball home. And again, Davo, United failed to hold on to a lead, paying the price for the fact that setup, Eriksen, essentially a passenger, made that childman Mainu their only midfielder. Udogie kept arriving there to give Spurs numerical dominance. But it was still, God, I mean, 50 seconds in. As a United fan, you got to watch and just be like, why can't we have nice things?
Yeah, after everyone in the NBC studios predicting a Man United win, which is sort of the obvious thing to do after they're leading 2-1 at halftime. But that sort of I got to tell you, and from there, even though Man United never ever lose at home after being ahead at halftime, I got to tell you, I thought Tottenham were going to shade it. I thought they were going to do it.
It did. It did. Like, ultimately, the game did grind its way out into just a dull stalemate. Spurs really lacked quality in that final third. United, for long stretches, you're right, down the back end of the game, they were so diminished. I mean, Garnacho, so quiet. Bruno, unable to influence. Whole team down the stretch, holding on. Until Spurs themselves got gassed. Old Trafford felt so bloody restless. The game ticked away. Gary Neville on the British broadcast bemoaned the lack of an evident strategy of play still for United. But then at the very last, McTominay, I guess he elected to head over when the goal begged at his mercy for the winner. A draw, fairish result. United 7th, Spurs 5th. Sense of regret, though, would you say? Something less taken from a game when much, much more is available to both teams?
Yeah, look, Tottenham, I think this is one of the first games that we've seen them play with neither Harry Kane nor Sonny playing on the team. And you felt
first time in like 4 years or
something like that.
Neither of them were on the team sheet.
That if either of them were in that team, you feel like Tottenham would have won that game. Man United too, with so many injuries, so many players missing. You feel like they were just missing the player who could change the game towards the end. McTominay has been their guy this season, unbelievably, and he did miss the chance. So yeah, fair result in the end. But a sign of the weakness that both teams have.
Spurs fans definitely going to point out the injuries and the new arrivals. Werner, who was actually solid, and the very fine-looking Dragushin, who was like, he's got like 7 different looks going on with his facial hair still to bed in. I mean, there's a player to bed in and the 7 different the 7 different facial looks, which are each one magnificent in their own part. They can't wait for Maddison to come back quickly enough. And a great result, I thought, under the circumstances. Ange made sure we knew that his team was so furious not to win, which I think is the ultimate sign of progress. But for United, Davo, to concede twice, let Leeds slip both times, that was kind of its own regret. Ten Hag post-game would probably have been relieved not to have crapped the bed with Jim Ratcliffe watching. There was fight at times, but to fail to hold on to the 3 points, for Manchester United fans who understand what the club is or has been long-term, what it stood for, against Spurs, against lads, it's Tottenham, is its own kind of barometer of reality. Ten Hag left to bemoan his teams need to, and quote, I love this, he said his team needs to be more man. And I thought, Davo, who amongst us doesn't need to be more man?
Yeah, I mean, they did. They phased in and out of intensity. And they sort of seemed to pick their moments when they decided to like all press or all show the kind of intensity that you need to it all the time. With Tottenham, that's not an issue. They show that kind of intensity all the time under Big Ange. But yeah, it's just once again, this is supreme collection of individuals, even with Man United's injuries, but unable to like bring it with the intensity which I think their fans are going to demand for the entire 90.
More man. I love that. I just love the idea of like Ten Hag showing Aaron Wan-Bissaka Jack Reacher season 2. More man. More man.
Okay, Chelsea 1, Fulham 0. Fulham made the arduous 9-minute drive from Craven Cottage to Stamford Bridge for the West London derby, but traffic can be awful, Rog, making the brave decision not to charter a jet for the journey. The lone goal came from the king of quaff, Cole Palmer, who netted a first-half penalty. Chelsea are now winners of 3 straight league games without playing particularly well, and up to 9th in the table. I think they were 8th before this game, before the next game kicked off, whilst Fulham stay in 13th.
God, West London derby, gripple grapple, ultimately between 2 mid-table teams, both coming off midweek Carabao Cup semi-final losses. Chelsea trying to repress the dark memory of soiling themselves up at Championship tide. Middlesbrough, Fulham loses at Anfield. Stealth wobbling. I think they just won once in their last 4 games, but that one was a come-from-behind wonder against Arsenal.
Arsenal, yeah.
Chelsea, nice AFCON news for them. Nico Jackson's out for a couple of weeks playing for Senegal. Broha now leading the line. What was the mindset at kickoff, Davo? Were you like, which Chelsea would show up? The one that crapped the bed at Championship duffers Middlesbrough, or the rebounding outfit who'd somehow mustered back-to-back league wins?
I mean, the amazing thing is that both versions of that Chelsea are very similar. They play very, very similar football, whether they're crapping the bed or finding a way to win games. There's very little range in them. It's only the result that gives you the indication of which team showed up. Yeah, I mean, thank God for Cole Palmer is all I can say. In a year and a half of some questionable transfers, or even where they've bought in good players at questionable transfer fees, Cole Palmer is legit maybe the off-season transfer number 1 across the Premier League, across maybe world football. I mean, he's been phenomenal yet again.
Yeah, he's no better. But, we've got to say, Fulham did start brightly via the truly he's on fire Anthony Robinson. They had the confidence to soak up as they had at Anfield and foray forward in moments. Game flicker between Fulham letting Chelsea onto them. Chelsea attempting to ratchet it up to no, we're driving you backwards. It was at times, honestly, hard to watch the football in that first half. Fulham had not won. We need to admit this. They hadn't won at the Bridge in 44 years. Didn't really look like changing that. I think they hope that one day they'll play Old Man Willian enough that they'll make like FE80s in 300 and reveal the hidden pathway that the Cottagers can use to outflank their opponents.
Yeah.
But suddenly...
Come here, lads, we're going down the tunnel. We're going to tunnel into the penalty area and we're going to score from there. I know where the tunnels are. I love it.
Oh, that's how Mudryk did it that one time, is it? Just a moment of brilliance, thank God. 21-year-old Cole Palmer, right at the stroke of halftime, crafted a stunning reverse pass, unleashed Raheem Sterling, galloping in on goal, turned Diop in the penalty area. Diop's trailing foot, Grace Sterling, brought him down like a tiny, giant California redwood tree. And Cole Palmer, stepped up to convert with precision. 9th Premier League goal of the season, 5th from the penalty spot. Dude's like a great NFL kicker. A joke. He's got 4 assists too, 16 goal involvements, all comps. You said that. I really believe that. Is he, in all of this $1 billion of madness, is he the equivalent of a blind squirrel finding an acorn in Chelsea's transfer mad spree?
Yeah, I mean, and they should. That blind squirrel really had to find some acorn somewhere. They deployed an army of squirrels, Roger, to go and find acorns. You imagine they were going to find
We
one
got the
good one.
best squirrels.
Yeah, the best squirrels. But yeah, he is phenomenal, and I think so much better than even his most passionate fans at Man City. I don't think anybody really knew just how good this guy is. And, the level of confidence that he showed to leave Man City, to say, no, I'm going to leave and I'm going to go and find my own path in this game,
I
to
want
stand
playing
up.
time now.
Yeah, so to go and do it, to go down to London as a northern boy, to go down there and go and play in Big Smoke. Not an easy thing to do, leaving his friends and family up there. And he's the leader of this team, and looks like, I got to tell you, he's Chelsea's best player every single time he boots up.
Yes, it's
That
a consistency.
He looks like a Chelsea legend. He literally looks like one of those guys that's going to be on that brick wall. If you've been to Stamford Bridge, where all the Chelsea legends are down on that brick wall, he's going to be on that brick wall. You can just feel it.
I mean, to do it consistently amidst the chaos, that's what impresses me. Because it is so surreal there still. It was so quiet at the bridge. There was that weird stunt that Todd Burley's film company did to promote some forthcoming film. Was it Argyle? You can see it on the internet. It's everywhere. 6 or 7 actors stood up right in front of the press box. I'm not sure why they put them right in front of the press box. But they stood up during the game and read a book marked Argyle in huge letters during the game. This would not have been a thing. It became a very large thing. Journos killing Todd Burley and the tabloids today if Chelsea were not mid. But they are, and they couldn't kill the game off. Bars and posts were hit down the stretch. It was Fulham surging forward. The game stretched, mostly because it was a derby. Legs were tired, just sloppiness everywhere, especially in the final third. Chelsea had no control on this game. None. With Enzo and Caicedo, $283 million worth of defensive shield. Fulham kept coming. It was desperate block City at the death, hanging on for 3 points. And tough week for Fulham. 4 losses in the last 5 now. But for Chelsea, what is the headline? What's your feeling? Is it 3 straight Premier League wins for the first time this season under Pochettino? The injury crisis finally easing. Chukwuemeka and Ben Chilwell coming on as welcome substitutes here. Chelsea now 9th. Talk of turning corners again. 6 within touching distance. Is it a feeling of never mind the quality, feel the points? Where are you?
Yeah, Chelsea are the 8th, 9th, or 10th best team in the Premier League. That's
Bite
where
your
they
arm
are.
off.
They're a mid-table team. Even Poch, I think, told his boys that before they went up to Middlesbrough, that they're a mid-table team. They can't expect great things to happen to them. That's sort of where they are, and my guess is sort of where they will end the season as well. They haven't. Yes, these results are important, and I think there are a lot of times earlier in the season where Chelsea played much better football and they didn't get the results. Starting on the opening day with that draw against Liverpool, when they were, without a doubt, the better team. And I think statistically, they're, when you check the XG table, we should have been top 4. There was a lot of that going on. I think over time, the statistics tend to sort of even out. Now Chelsea are finding a way to get results in games where they're not playing particularly well, which is something you have to do as you improve. And that does inspire confidence. And that confidence then inspires, one would think, better performances. But yes, there are some players coming back from injuries. Chelsea still have so many injuries, and so many injuries that you just sort of question how on earth this is going to happen. This mystery with Nkunku, who they spent so much money for, came back for 2 games and is gone again. Is Broha really an elite team striker leading the line with no backup over the next 6 to 8 weeks? I'd like him, but I don't think he's a lovely 3rd string striker for us. I don't think he's elite. I'd bite your arm off for Olivier Giroud right now, who we let go for nothing, a couple of seasons ago.
I'm going to say Pulisic and Giroud in there together.
Yeah,
It's all you need to make your team go over the top.
yeah. I mean, Chelsea hit hit the woodwork a couple of times in this game. Conor Gallagher almost scored the goal of Conor Gallagher's dreams with the outside of his right foot.
Oh,
But on the whole, I mean, I laughed when you said that, like, oh, they're 1-0 up against Fulham and they're just holding on. We were 3-0 up against Luton and we looked like we were going to lose that game. So, I mean, who knows what to find in this? All I know is 20% of our points this season have come against Fulham. 20% of Chelsea's games. They don't really need to be in the Premier League. We could be in the league of the London Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, and it
I
would
love
be
you. I love you.
fine.
That's the real Super League.
Yeah,
By the way, I love that notion that, like, we always say the unpredictability of football is why we're watching. You're like, no, having Luton almost claw back at us,
yeah,
it's not what we want.
yeah. I know. Yeah, that
Talking
doesn't
of,
that doesn't really work. Yes, Burnley won, Luton Town won. Up 1-0 in stoppage time, the Clarets looked to be cruising to 3 points and a half dozen celebratory Benny and Hots at the Royal Dyche when the Hatters' Alfie Doughty swung a fateful cross into the Burnley box. Elijah Adebayo hit Clarets keeper James Trafford with a hip check or an arse check, some kind of a check. Eric Lindros would be proud of, freeing Carlton Morris to head home the equaliser. VAR officials, fired up, rolled up their sleeves, fired up their Commodore 64s, and determined that, yes, setting a moving screen on a goalkeeper is totally legal, apparently. The goal stood. Both teams went home with a point, and it's once again time to set our days since the last VAR incident counter back to zero, Rog.
God, it feels like weeks ago we feasted on this Friday afternoon treat, an epic relegation 6-pointer. Burnley probably would have preferred to play on the road. They won the reverse fixture at the Kenny, but remain the single most generous host in football. Luton had been on a sizzling run, 2 wins in 3. But it was Burnley who took the lead. They made the most of a foray forward, a rare foray forward, to be honest. Zeki Amdouni's 36-minute opener, set up quite brilliantly by the electric 19-year-old PSG Youth Academy developed Wilson Erdebur. Luton roared back. They dominated. Ross Barkley, again magnificent, enforcing his beautiful mind on proceedings. Luton dominated. Luton who'd finished 21 points behind Burnley, if you remember, in the Championship last season, but have been battered and bruised the Clarets since their return to the Premier League into the 91st minute. It looked like they were going to hold on. I was watching along at home, Burnley on the cusp of such a crucial win. I texted our friend, the mighty JJ Watt, who I imagined in his home was probably lifting weights, watching along, elated, relieved, extremely, extremely pumped. I texted him, scenes in the Watt home, no doubt, are mine too. As an Everton fan, we all need Luton to be smited, baby. And David, I made a terrible mistake. I texted too early.
Yeah, not for the first time. Not for the first
And
time.
I mean, Luton, 10 minutes, what is it, 10 goals in the last 10 minutes of Premier League games? Only Liverpool have scored more. I mean, they are set up to keep going, to score when you least expect it. And it was painful. Doughty lofted in a cross. Young Burnley goalkeeper James Trafford came out slightly meekly. I think you're meant to come out all guns blazing, taking out every bastard around you, your team, their team, every team mode. This is more like teeth are chattering. There was a collision in the box between him and Adebayo. Goalkeeper went down slightly theatrically, as goalkeepers do, because they know in modern football, goalkeepers get all the calls. It's a rule, it's a norm, it's accepted. A bit like quarterbacks in roughing the passer. But Davo, the goal was bloody given. VAR kicked in. It looked, as we were watching, Adebayo made a move towards the goalkeeper, stuck out a hip. It was an ass cheek, at least a half an ass cheek in his direction. I'm texting with JJ, who I'm trying to talk off the ledge. I was never going to let it stand, is it? But my God, I just wanted to recede from JJ Watt's text, a bit like Homer Simpson back into the bushes. How do you understand it, Davo? Because VAR gave it. They said it was a, quote, coming together.
So let's track back just a few weeks and just this roller coaster we've been on with VAR. FA Cup games. Oh, the joy of watching football without VAR, just watching referees make their own decisions and call the game as it is. And then there's a decision that you think, oh, but it would have been nice to have had VAR to get involved in that one. Then the Carabao Cup is like no VAR in the Carabao Cup, and yet we're insane about the decisions that the ref are making. So we come to this weekend and we come to this decision, and the referee makes the call on the field. He makes the call, and we wanted the certain portion of the media of analysts, they want VAR out, let the refs make the call, and the referee, as referees sometimes do, they make no call. Even though I look at it, and the second I'm watching in live action, I think, oh, that looks, that looks like a foul. And also, you add on to that the fact that goalkeepers always get that call. That's got to be a foul. But VAR, remember, it's line now. VAR has to humiliate one of its own. VAR has to overrule a decision made by one of its referees on the field. So they need something. What they need compelling evidence that they're seeing something which he didn't see on the field. And also, they're apparently in that rule, that foul on the goalkeeper, there has to be intent. It has to be intentional. He has to be aware that he's doing it. I see a look over the shoulder. They perhaps don't see a look over the shoulder. He's got a big ass.
Gorgeous ass.
Gorgeous ass. But even one butt cheek of that it's probably bruises down the side of James Trafford right now. And yeah, it's an arse/hip check that seemed to be with awareness, but not enough for VAR to overrule it. I don't get it. No one in football seems to get it. Certainly,
it's something. I interviewed John McGinn in an interview that's come out this week. A beautiful man, an incredible man. We were chatting about how big his arse cheeks are, and he said, "If I didn't have my butt, I'd be playing for Yeovil Town." Was one of his great lines. But this is the Adebayo has. I mean, these are Mack truck size orbs. They are magnificently large. There was definitely a bum check. Legend, and you have to ask yourself: have Manchester City, for instance, ever had a decision like this go against them? Legendary GFOP at Sweet Bobby now tweeted, if it's against a small club, yes, this is a goal. If it's against a major club, no, it's not given. JJ Watt tweeted, I'm new to this ownership thing, so if I get fined by the Premier League, so be it. This was as blatant and obvious of as a foul as you could have. And for his part, a seething belly able to keep it together, Vincent Kompany. I mean, understand, you've got to remember, and Kompany made sure we did by listing them. Lost December's 3-2 loss at Aston Villa, handball decision that gifted Unai Emery's team an 89th minute penalty winner. September's 1-1 draw at Nottingham Forest. Lyle Foster scored late. It was negged for a handball in the build-up. And then Bournemouth, no penalty given to Burnley late on. Very kind of penalty that was actually given to Villa. He said, I don't get it anymore. What is this here? A clear attempt to stop the goalkeeper getting up. Doesn't take anything away from Luton, who are incredible, but the referee has to get it right. Any ex-pro will say the striker cleared room for the other striker. I do appreciate apologies, though. I got to be honest. I have a pile like this as he pinched a huge stat like a mime with a laugh. I'd say to miss this on the field and to miss it on VAR is really hard to understand. And I told JJ, because there's an Evertonian, we actually had a similar goal disallowed for a non-DCL foul on Leno. Leno got the call for Fulham. Only Everton and Burnley get so screwed, which is a very nice segue, Davo, into the darkness.
Yes, Everton 0, Aston Villa 0. A game that proved the life truth. You can lose if you don't concede, and you can't be disappointed if you don't take the lead. A little goalless draw to start your Sunday morning, like lumpy oatmeal with no toppings. How did you experience this, Roger? When I looked at the result, I was like, oh, Roger will be made up for a 0-0.
Yeah, I mean, the more things change, the more they stay the same. I don't know how you say that in Scouse. I think it's like plus ça change, like.
Plus ça change, like?
Yeah, plus ça change, like, mate. I am old enough, Dave, to remember a month ago when we were 7 points clear of the relegation places, even with the 10-point deduction, and everything felt so just amazing. Driving in your car, speed so fast, felt like Sean Dyche was safe. 3 straight defeats, Luton surging, and we're on the brink again. And we had to play bloody Villa in the Lucas Digne Memorial Derby. Villa, 4 wins in 6. They could have gone level at the top of the league with Liverpool with a win. I knew we were in trouble when the commentator chirpily said, the most played game in English football history dating back to the 19th century. Everton will do their best to make sure it remains so. God, I was like, oh my God, that's a bit dark. I was like, thank you, sir.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I was like, how would Richarlison react to this? With a
Yes.
flourish. Dear sir, thou dost just. I
Yes.
challenge you to a duel, thou darkest bastard. Um, you know, Villa Open, surging down all right. Seamus Coleman, as he broke Tim Howard's club record of 355 Everton appearances. Producer J Dubs tweeted, 15 years of Seamus. Sounds like a great Pogues album. And the honest truth is, he's old, and you can tell the players around him don't totally trust him. Jordan Pickford rushed out headlessly to cover needlessly at times. Felt like we were punished, and we're going to get punished when Moreno spanked brilliantly home from a set piece. VAR kicked in, took forever. I mean, there was clearly a push in the build-up on an Everton defender. But God bless, this was the moment of unity of the weekend. Everton fans and Aston Villa fans all started chanting, VAR is, and I quote, effing shit. Which is a beautiful moment of just everybody coming together, united for a cause. Ruled offside. Rest of the game, a lot of Villa. Everton coming back with rare forays. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Davo Bless, not scored in, is it 13 long Premier League games now? Ran a full half, in on goal, no one around him, too much time to think, and to think is to fear. Emi Martinez smothered decisively, somehow got down to Parry Garner's follow-up with a brilliant dive in the corner. But it's so hard watching Big Dom, Davo. Started the season so well, but his form has tanked. Honestly, looks like David Hasselhoff floundering around on the floor trying to grab a cheeseburger. Still so handsome, but let's just say, so in need of some private time, David.
Yeah. What was the name of Hasselhoff's car? Kit, right? Was the name of
Yes.
that car? Maybe he needs
Yeah.
Kit. Maybe they need to put him in a Camaro, and
Oh
he'll
my
be
God.
and
Tom
it will all
Davis
get
was
better.
DCL's kit. We need to get the band back together. Second half, we did come at them. We've not scored in over 5 hours at this point. Huff and puff, did create chance after chance. Just a lot of comedy lols as Dan Juma and DCL. Oh, they came close. God bless them. Let's say that for trying. Villa had only failed to score in 4 of the 60 games since Emery's arrival. This is amazing. Man had no 0-0s. Down the stretch, it was just. By the way, the end of this game, I don't know if you at home would ever do this. We were all reduced to, none of us were sitting. We were all standing like a foot for the television, just screaming. So much shithousery, so much odd refereeing, so much. John Duran, the Colombian 20-year-old for Villa, came from the Chicago Fire. So physical, so fast, so confident. Bodied all comers. What a force that man's going to be. Onana for Everton countered just with one elite act of shithousery after the next. Surprisingly, Everton didn't crap the bed. Enormous point. Stops the bleeding of 3 straight losses. Brutal gauntlet of games to come. We've got the FA Cup replay Wednesday, then Spurs, Man City, Brighton, West Ham, United, Liverpool in 6 of our next 8. And worse, this morning as we pod, I've not had time to digest this. We have already been hit with a 10-point deduction. I've joked the past couple of weeks we need another point deduction to fire up our season. I was kidding.
Yeah.
I was kidding. But David Ornstein reporting Everton already hit with a 10-point penalty, face new point deduction after the Premier League charged them and Nottingham Forest with new financial fair play breaches for last season. A fast track process has been agreed. Deductions will apply to this season. There's obviously more to come. The club have released a statement saying they are utterly compliant. And they are also saying the Premier League are changing the rules anyway in August. Why are you doing this dirty twice? But David, when I said Everton needed that massive points deduction to change our play again in 2024, I was joking. Villa could have gone up top. Instead, they'll rue this one, David. But why always us? Why always us?
Yeah, I guess the previous points deduction was for incidents during the 21-22 season. They're now catching up. They're catching up on their books, like many people catch up on their taxes on the 22-23 season. I mean, what on earth have they done during the 23-24 season? Because I don't think the revenue side of their economics is getting any better. So if they spend any money or bring anybody in, if they sort of buy some new Twiglets for the executive suites, which is probably fine dining at Goodison, they're going to breach financial
your
fair
arm off for
play.
some Twiglets.
Twiglets, yeah.
Oh, mate, I got to tell you, we are like the Millhouse of the Premier League. It just feels like the Premier League just know that they need to seem active. They need to show they are watching, watching a watchman that they don't need outside oversight. We're taking care of our own. Who are we going to do it to? Everton. I mean, it's just like, oh my God, not in the face. I've come to realize the only revenue on Everton's balance sheet are when I take my 4 kids to the club shot every Christmas. It's like genuinely coming in, Beto on a free. Those are our expenditures. What about revenue? And they're just like 4 team shirts for $273. And that's probably it. It is dark. But remember, Everton fans, it's always darkest before it goes pitch black.
Yeah, there is a kid in every classroom, Rog, who is used as the example to punish instead of the real offender. I had it at school. I can't remember. We had a kid in our school. John Eade was the real troublemaker.
Yeah.
But there was a kid, Harmer. I can't remember Harmer's first name. Harmer was always used as the example. He was a proxy to punish John Eade. It was Harmer who was always sent out of class,
Harmer
suspended,
was
getting into trouble. He was the Everton.
John Eade had 115 charges against him, and he's just still winning stuff. Well done, John. Oh, John, that was breathtaking, John. Hume. Harmer. Harmer. Was Harmer's first name Cole? That would just be so incredible.
Yeah. I have no idea. Probably never knew it at the time. It was Harmer, Hodder and Hurst went in the order of in the register. Harmer, Hodder, Hurst.
God, actually, we didn't have Coles. Who am I kidding? We didn't have Coles when we were growing up. If you're listening, Harmer,
Lewis.
If you're listening, Harmer, I think you and I would get on. If you're the Everton of Davo's class growing up, I think you and I would be friends.
Yeah. Okay. Rog, before we go, a quick reminder about everything we've got happening at Men in Blazers this week, powered by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Tomorrow, it's our new episode of This Week in Wrexham, presented by Stoke Cold Brew Coffee. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. And Wednesday, it is a special FA Cup edition of Do It Live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on our YouTube Live. Just subscribe to our YouTube to come on right in the wake of Everton Palace. Yes, when Rog is guaranteed to be in a fantastic mood. Until then, Roger, can we get a twist?
Please, Chris Richards, don't hurt us. A final toast. I do want to raise a glass to a couple of quick things. Christian Pulisic, who became at the weekend the first American in our nation's entire history to win a Serie A Player of the Month award. Dave, not even the great Lalas did that.
Wow.
Outside of his own imagination during his time in Padova. 2 goals, 2 assists in December for Pooley. It is incredible to see and to witness what you can do when you are loved and you feel confident. Huge love also to PSV Eindhoven, the only elite team in Europe to field 3 Americans and the only team to be making records, matching the Eredivisie's record of 17 straight wins to open the season. Perfect record. Can it be a coincidence? I don't think so. Blistering. Wonderful to see Serginho Dest. Actually had an assist in his personal mixtape of highlights this weekend. God bless. And finally, to League One team Reading, to more accurately to their fans, the game with Port Vale on Saturday was abandoned after their supporters invaded the field in the 16th minute to protest against truly catastrophic mismanagement by their club owners. Reading, the mighty Biscuitmen, twice been deducted points this season. No team, let me just say this, I'm saying this objectively, should twice be deducted points this season, David. But Reading, they've only had sponsors to step in to pay their players' wages. The assistant manager was sacked. The club said there's no money to pay one. The training ground has no food as caterers owed money, packed up and left. It is truly, truly just an awful story. Reading were in the Premier League just a decade ago. It's awful to watch a once proud club be run into the ground by a callous owner so far removed from the passionate fan base. I just say to better days ahead for all.
Absolutely. Okay. You can follow us on Twitter at Men in Blazers, at MC Davies, at Roger Bennett, on Instagram at Men in Blazers, at MC Davies, on Facebook, Men in Blazers, on Twitch, twitch.tv/Men in Blazers. Also our TikTok, look for it at Men in Blazers. You can always email us at meninblazers@gmail.com. We love and cherish getting your emails. Venderpunk, Rog.
War Pig.
Was that a Rabona?
I like snacks.
Balls win, balls win.
Take that, Gloria.
Balls lose.
To Tweed.
Abrigado, rock on, mate.
Kung Fu Fight in America. Love you, Davo.
Love you, Roger.
Love you, KDB. Wig and all. Listen to the full version of this podcast and all our podcasts wherever you get your pods. But first, subscribe here for more Men in Blazers videos. And courage.